Hi, I'm Wallace. I'm the founder and CEO of Above Board Financial. And if you already had a chance to watch our intro video for life insurance for single moms by choice, you know that when we work with SMBC clients, we typically see them choosing to take one of two approaches. And that first approach is that if God forbid something happened to them, like they were hit by the proverbial bus, they would want their child or children to move in with a different trusted household. And we're going to dig into that scenario in a little more detail. So, if that's what you're thinking is the most likely scenario for your family, here are some tips for things you might want to think about or talk about with, in conversation with the grown-ups leading that trusted household where your child would go. Now, let's, imagine an example here, right? Perhaps you're a single woman working in San Francisco in Silicon Valley, and you have a vision that if something were to happen to you, your child would move in with your brother and his wife and their kids in Virginia. Now, what are some things that are really great to consider? And ideally, and I know sometimes it can be hard to find the words for this type of conversation, but it is also so valuable when you do, like just have a conversation with them, right? You can even couch it as like, hey, I'm doing some insurance planning and I just wanted to ask you a few questions about what's admittedly an unlikely scenario, but if it did come up, I wouldn't want anyone to be caught, unprepared or by surprise. If my son came to live with you, what types of increased expenses do you imagine you might have? And I think when you kind of go through that conversation, some of the things that you want to hit on are like, is the home of the household where your child would go big enough to comfortably welcome your child? And would perhaps your life insurance need to help fund a renovation or a move? And if that household already has children, would they need extra childcare support if their family suddenly grew? And you also want to give a moment of thought to how the cost of living in the area where your child would go compares to where you're at. If you're kind of talking about like one high cost coastal area to another, you probably don't have to make any adjustment at all. But say you're a professor at Oklahoma State and your household of choice for your little one is in New York City, right? That's where you would start to see like, wow, to have access to the same opportunities for my child, I would need to budget a higher monthly expense rate than what I'm actually paying right now. You also want to think about, well, what are the local public schools like there? And would they be a good fit or would private school be needed? And you kind of want to factor in a ballpark sense of what that is. Again, you don't have to have like a fully baked, detailed plan, but just something that gets you in the ballpark of what reasonable expenses would be. And again, it's great to have this conversation directly with the grown-ups in the household that you would envision your child going to. Now, I also wanted to talk about some mistakes to avoid in this situation. And I think the most common one is a belief that somebody else would pay for the child and in this scenario. And the reason that I caution against believing this, unless there's already like a trust clearly set up where like your child is the beneficiary, the money's already there, that's a separate story. But the reason that I emphasize this is that I think sometimes in this example, people think something like, oh, my brother and sister-in-law are really well off. They have two kids, it would be fine. And the thing is, like, you don't always know the details of somebody else's situation. And even if you talk to them at a high level, people who love you want to be helpful. They want to believe that they could help in this unlikely scenario. But the actual math behind the scenes might be a lot more stressful than what they would represent to you in a calm conversation when it's just hypothetical. And so, by making sure that your child has enough life insurance to support this huge life transition, you have the power to ensure that your child is never a source of financial strain. And that for as stressful and awful as this hypothetical situation is, that the financial piece of it works really smoothly. And that's just a huge gift to everyone involved.